to be my August favorites. I almost forgot what month it is because I cannot believe how fast time is going. I don't even feel like it's September right now. I'm filming this September 5th and I cannot believe it's September already. Like, I know people say this all the time, but I literally feel like this year has went by in like 2 seconds. Like, it's insane. Like, my birthday was a couple of weeks ago and I feel like that was like a century ago, but I feel like time has been moving so fast. So I don't know how that happens. But here we are in September. So we're just going to talk about my favorites today. There's not too many products here because honestly, I didn't really go ham getting too much new makeup after my haul that I posted like the first week of August. I kind of just calmed down and didn't buy any makeup until like a couple of days ago. I'm actually wearing a couple of those products on my face today and I already love them, but I will share those in a haul video with you guys. It was only 2 products and then I ordered like my September eyeshadow palette and a blush from Sigma, so you guys will be seeing that coming up as well. So let's start out with eyeshadow palettes, and I wanted to talk about the one that I've been using quite a bit that was the newest to my collection in August, and I did use it quite a lot this past August, and I'm talking about the Nomad Cosmetics Fête de Provence palette. Now, I didn't think that Nomad was going to be a brand I was going to end up repurchasing from, but honestly, their formula really did impress me with the Whistler Snow Lodge palette, so I was like, you know what, I kind of want to pick up another palette from them, and then I saw this palette revealed, and I was like, this is such a gorgeous summer spring color story, but I also see myself using this a lot next spring. I really feel like that's where I could use this palette, but also it's kind of a good palette transitioning from summer to fall or spring to summer. So I think it's just such a pretty color story, and I love the shade selection in here. I love like the purple lavender shades. I love like the grayish toned silvery purpley shades, and then you have this row of yellows and oranges and pinks. You can do so many color combinations with this. I feel like I still want to do a yellow and purple look together. I could do an orange and yellow look. I could do a pink and purple look. I haven't really went down those roads yet, but I've been kind of sticking to like the same colors when I do a look with this. But I can tell you right now, my favorite part of the palette is like this row. This shimmer is unreal. I love it so much. And I also love this orange shimmer. So those two are my favorite shimmers in the palette. And I think that the mattes perform great. I really don't have any issues with them. Some of them are a little bit powdery, but honestly, like, they still blend out easily and they're easy to work with. And that's why I like the Nomad formula, is that it's a very beginner-friendly formula, and I think that this is a palette that a lot of people that are afraid of color could kind of dip their toes into this color story, because it's still like muted, but it's also like just such a well thought out color story, and I love it. I think it's beautiful. So I really love the shade. I mean, I'm probably gonna butcher these names because they are mostly in French. This one is Bouches de Rhône. I know I'm totally butchering that. That is awful, but I did not take French in high school. I took Spanish, so. So this one is just such a stunning, like, periwinkle, lavendery silver shimmer, and it's so beyond pretty. I don't own anything like this in my collection, so this shade is definitely the most unique to me, and it's just so beautiful. And then I love the shade Navette, which y'all know I love a good peach shimmer or a good gold shimmer. And this one is a stunning peachy gold color. And this one has like just the run-of-the-mill standard shimmer formula from Nomad, but it's such a wonderful formula that it's just so pretty. And then the shade that everybody is talking about is the shade Fleur de Mimosa, which I'm actually planning on wearing tomorrow because I want to do a yellow look again. And this one is a really, really gorgeous limey green yellow shimmer. And it shifts all these beautiful like green and gold and yellow glitters. It's just such a gorgeous color. So I love that color as well. And then I'm just going to swatch a couple of the mattes for you guys. And then we'll move on to another palette. Because obviously I always start with eyeshadow palettes. This shade and like the grayish tone lavender is gorgeous. These are all just so beautiful. And Nomad's matte formula is fantastic. So I really don't have any issues with these. I especially love the deeper periwinkle shade. That's also like the color of the year. So now I finally have a good periwinkle shade. So this one is Champs de Lavande. The middle one is Côte d'Azur, and then this shade is Macarons. At least I can say Macarons, but the mattes just blend out amazingly. Such an easy formula to work with, so I highly recommend Nomad if you were eyeing it. I think that they're great, and I think that this color story is beautiful, so I really, really like it. So yeah, and I think the packaging and everything, it just sucked me in, and I was like, I really want to try this palette. And I went a little palette crazy this past month, but I think I bought all of these palettes last month, so yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about the other palette that I wasn't able to talk about in the last video, because in the last favorites video, because I hadn't tried it yet. I think the same thing with the Nomad palette. I hadn't tried it yet in I don't know if it was for my July favorites. I didn't try them in July because obviously I didn't own them yet. So the next one is the Melt Cosmetics Muerte palette. Sorry, I'm getting a couple notifications right now. So this is my fourth palette from Melt. I actually have not picked up a palette from Melt since the Mary Jane palette last April. So it's been like a year or so since I've picked up a Melt palette, but they did restock this palette for a limited time a couple of weeks ago, and I decided to pick it up. Then, I mean, this palette is probably like, I think 3 years old at this point. I think they came out with it in 2019. And overall, I really do enjoy this palette. I think it's very pretty. I really like the looks that come out with it, but it does take a little bit of work and effort to blend Melt's mattes. And the shimmers in here are very, very dry and hard pressed. So they're a little bit difficult to pick up, but once you have them on the lid, they're really beautiful. And the mattes are still super pigmented. They're just a little bit harder to blend than like Nomad or Odin's Eye. And Melt palettes aren't always the easiest to blend out, but I actually find that this might be the driest palette that I own from Melt in my collection, because I have the Waiting Room palette, the Rust palette, and the Mary Jane palette, and I find all of those are easier to use and work with. I think that the reds in the Waiting Room palette are easier to work with than these ones. These ones are a little bit more patchy, but overall the look does turn out beautiful. This was really the whole reason why that I wanted this palette in the first place, was this mint quad here. And this was definitely my favorite look in the palette. And then I did like a red look with this shade all over the lid, and this shade is stunning. I love this gold. And then I did like a red look with the blues as like my first impression look. But the mint look looked so gorgeous on my eyes. Oh my god, it was so pretty. But again, the shimmers are a little bit hard pressed. Calica is the easiest shimmer to pick up. This one is a very easy shimmer to work with. But as I'm pressing this one in the pan, the shade Angelito, it's very dry, but it's so pretty on the lid. So again, just keep that in mind if you did pick it up. I do think that Melt's formula has improved a lot since this palette came out. Not saying it's not gorgeous and pretty. So that is Calica, and that one is Angelito. So there are some of the shimmers. And then I'll swatch a couple of the mattes. I'm not going to swatch too many. I'll just swatch the red and the mint shade and the blue. Let's just do those three. See, again, very, very pigmented. So that's where Melt really shines, is their mattes, because they are gorgeous. So that one is Corazon. This one is Lágrimas. And the blue is Noche Eterna. So I know how to pronounce some Spanish names. They're very pretty. And I'm actually happy that I have this in my collection. And I have actually used every shade in it. I didn't think I was going to use it really until like the fall time, but this is a really pretty color story and very unique to my collection, and I mostly got it just to have it as a collector's item because this is a very coveted palette in the makeup indie industry. So I really love it, and I'm glad that I own it now. And I'm planning on using it tomorrow. So yeah, it's just a really pretty palette and just gorgeous, gorgeous packaging. I mean, 10 out of 10 with the packaging. So that is the Melt Muerte palette. And then the rest of them are from ColourPop. So we're just going to go through them pretty quickly. So the one that I'm wearing on my eyes today is the ColourPop Nude Mood palette. This has pretty much become like my go-to neutral palette besides the Sigma Ambiance palette. You guys know how much I love the Sigma palette. But this palette is just such an easy palette to use. And I cannot believe how long it took me to pick up this palette. But now since I own it, I've used it a lot. I've used all the shimmers twice. And I just used this one for the third time today. They just have such a beautiful metallic shine on the lids. Like, I love these two middle shades, Wink Wink and Put On Airs. And I think that these mattes are better than the mattes that are in the Going Coconuts palette. Like, I love reaching for this palette because it's just so pretty on the eyes. So I really have been enjoying this one. And I, again, cannot believe how long it took me to pick up this palette because it really is a beautiful neutral palette. And it really is a stunner with the shimmers. So there are some of the shades. So this one is Wink Wink. This one is Put On Airs. And this one is the Cocoa. And as you guys can see, I've been using this palette quite a bit. Like, it looks like it's been used because I really, really enjoy it. So what I have on my eyes today is I have All Natural in the crease. Then I darken up the crease more with Mugged Off, and then I used Moody on the outer corners, and then I put the center shade all over my lid. And then I used Bluffin' on the brow bone, and then for the inner corners, I used Wink Wink, and that is my look today. And the reason why I really like this one and the Going Coconuts palette is that it has everything that I absolutely need in a neutral palette, and it's just a 9-pan. But I feel like this, I can do my neutral looks that I love, and they're just so easy to create. And then the same thing with the Going Coconuts palette, because they both have a brow bone highlight in it. The Sigma Ambiance is a little bit dark for me. The lightest shade in there doesn't really work too well for me as a brow bone highlight, but these are light enough for my fair skin. So that's why I love these palettes. So yeah, love this palette. Really have been reaching for it quite a bit, and I love it. As you guys can see, I'm wearing it today. So love that. And then the last two, I used this palette so much in August. This became my #1 most used palette in August, and that is the ColourPop in the Springs palette. I know I mentioned this last month, but I had to mention it again because I love this palette so much. This is definitely my favorite palette that has come out from ColourPop this year. Because the Nude Mood palette came out in, I think like 2 years ago. It was like right before lockdown. That was like their collection was the Blush Crush collection, and the Nude Mood collection came out at like the same time. So let me just wipe some of these swatches off of my hand. Just give me a second. God, these melt shades really do stain your hands. Like, I have so much glitter on my hands right now. But it's okay. Let's talk about this palette really quick, and then maybe I'll go wash my hands. So, this is the In the Springs palette, and I just am obsessed with this color story. I really was just so impressed with the formula of this for for ColourPop, because honestly, some of them have been hit and misses this year from them. So I just think overall the mattes perform so well and the shimmers are stunning on the lid. I've done the orange and pop of blue with this color on the lid 3 times already. That's my favorite look to do with this palette. I'll take this shade, Neon Kiss, and then darken it up with these 2 shades, like this on the defining area and this on the outer corners, and then I'll pop this beautiful shimmer Hot Tub all over my lid, and it's so gorgeous. I just love this palette. I really don't have anything else to say about it. I just really think that they blew it out of the water for this, and that's funny because it is a pool themed palette, but I just love it. I think it's gorgeous, and I cannot believe I wasn't going to get this. I was going to skip over this too. I was like, I just need like a turquoise matte in it, because honestly, I don't really use this shade, and this shade is a teal, but honestly, they're so beautiful. And I love the way that they perform, that I'm like, I really, really love this palette. So it's just gorgeous. I love it, and I don't really know what else to say about it. So this one is Hot Tub. This one is Climb Time. Just stunning metallics. I mean, are you kidding me? They're just so gorgeous. They really do sparkle in person, and I just love them. And then I'll just swatch a couple of the mattes. That one is Intense, and this one is Get Aerial, but honestly was just so impressed with this formula. Just so pretty, and the mattes are just gorgeous. So yeah, I just don't have anything else to say about it, because I really, truly love this palette, and I wanted to use it a lot in August, because I don't know if I'm going to reach for it as much during the fall time, because this isn't really like a color story I would wear past like summer, because of the oranges, but you know, most palettes become year-round palettes for me. But yeah, I just love this palette so much. So that is the In the Springs palette, and then the last palette from ColourPop is the In the Limelight palette. I just wanted to give this one a shout out again, because I did use it a couple of times in August, and I really just want to use it even more, because I really am enjoying this formula in here. The shimmers are stunning, and the mattes just perform beautifully. I really was super impressed with this formula in here. And the shimmers are just so gorgeous on the lid. And even though these are like more pastel-y greens, for the mattes, they really do perform really well and really nicely. And I'm actually impressed with this formula. So I love it. And I'm just going to swatch them again, because the shimmers are so stunning. Stunning. Like, oh my god. So this one is Booked, and this one is Playdate. I mean, are you kidding me? How pretty are these shimmers together? Like a summer dream, right? And then let's swatch a couple of Z mattes. Very creamy mattes for pastel shades. And look how pigmented they are. Like, what? And those are some of the shades there. So this one is After Party, and this one is Miami. Very, very pretty. Been in loving the ColourPop palettes I picked up. These are probably my 3 favorites that I've gotten this year from ColourPop, because I really do like them. So, and the packaging for this is so cute. So yeah, those are all the eyeshadow palettes I have to talk about. Let me just go wash my hands. Okay, so I don't have any really concealers or mascaras or like that many base products to talk about, because I've still been on a no-buy for foundations and concealers. I just want to use up some more concealers and foundations before I get anything. But I am really interested in getting the new Haus Labs foundation, so I might get that at some point. But let's talk about some of the cheek products that I've been really liking. And I also have just one foundation to talk about. But honestly, I've been using this at least twice a week. And anytime I want to use like a luxury foundation, I always go back to this one. And that is the Valentino foundation. This is the Very Valentino Sunscreen Broad Spectrum SPF 26 Light Lasting Perfecting Foundation. I'm obsessed with this foundation. I love how it looks on my skin. It's so beautiful. I'm not wearing it today. I'm actually wearing the Rare Beauty Tinted Moisturizer, which I also love. And those were the last two foundations that I picked up back in April. So I've been doing really good, not getting any new foundations for a little while. It's been like 4 or 5 months. Because like I said, when I had COVID, I wasn't even wearing makeup. Like, what was the point of getting more foundation, honestly? But I have like 4 luxury foundations in my collection, which is the Dior, the YSL, the Pat McGrath, and this one. And I'm like, I should use the Pat McGrath, but then every time I want to use it, I'm like, but I really want to use this one again. I actually enjoy this one more than the Pat McGrath. The Pat McGrath is still really beautiful, but this one just reminds me so much of the Anastasia one, and it just really like reminds me that this is the finish that I love wearing on my skin, is like dewy, but healthy looking and not too shiny, and it just blends out beautifully, and I just love this on my skin. And I'm in the shade Light R2. I know this is pricey, but honestly, I do think splurging on a foundation is a little bit more worth it than getting like a blush or a highlight, because I know I'm pretty good about using these up. I mean, I have till December to use this, but honestly, I never pay attention to the expiration dates until it starts smelling bad. But I don't know. I might be like halfway through already, but I can't really tell. It's kind of hard to tell in this bottle, but I love it. It's so gorgeous. So I love that. And now let's talk about some highlighters and blushes, which again, I don't have too many. I just have 2 to share with you. The first one I didn't get until after, I didn't try until August, but Nomad's highlighters are so beyond gorgeous. So this is the Nomad Cindy Bathers Balmoral Beach highlighter. I finally said that right. It's so hard for me to say that sometimes. So this one is the Nomad highlighter, and it's a little bit hard for me to open this up sometimes. I like keeping my boxes for my blushes and my highlights and my eyeshadow palettes, because that's just how I am. I just really love how it looks, and then I don't throw it out and waste packaging. So it's a win-win situation, right? So this one is the Cindy Beach highlighter. I'm not saying the real name again because I always screw it up, but this is such a stunning peachy gold highlighter. Oh my god, I needed to grab a tissue and I'm like, that is gross. So this is a really gorgeous, stunning highlighter, and the reason why I love Nomad's highlighters is that they're so soft and smooth, but they are so intense and gorgeous on the skin. And I've worn this quite a few times. I think I've worn it like 3 or 4 times this past month, and it's so beyond stunning. I don't know how they do it. It performs like they're shimmers. And it's just such a stunning highlighter. And this was only $3, because they're discontinuing their highlights, and I don't think they've done blushes, but they need to come out with some more highlighters with their collections. Like, I'm glad that they just didn't do an eyeshadow palette for the Feats de Provence palette. They did glosses as well, which I think were their like first ever lip products. But it's like, I wish that they would come out with more than just an eyeshadow palette, but I understand because they're an indie brand, it's a little bit difficult, but it's literally just an eyeshadow palette for each place that they go to. I wish that they came out with like more like they did with like their past collections, like for Australia with this. And I have the gold highlighter that I absolutely love from them too. I forgot what that one is called, but they're just stunning and they're so beyond cheap. So if you were thinking about getting a good indie brand highlighter, these are only $3 and they're gorgeous. Like, I cannot believe how cheap they are. Okay, and then the other one is the ColourPop In the Springs highlighter in the shade Flip Flop. I've talked about this in my, and I have one other highlighter actually to talk about. I talked about this in my last favorites video, but I have to talk about it again because I did use it quite a bit this month. And it's just such a stunning highlighter. This is one of my favorite highlighters I think I've ever gotten from ColourPop, because it has like such a gorgeous, blinding, shimmery formula, and it's just so gorgeous. I wore this to the beach a couple of times, I think, and I also wore it just in general because it's just such a beautiful highlighter. And I wore it like almost every time that I wore the In the Springs palette, and it just goes so well with the eyeshadow looks, but it's just so stunning. I love it. It's a little bit more shimmery than the Nomad one. It's like a little bit more glittery, but that's how their Super Shock highlighters usually are, but they're so gorgeous on the skin. So love this one too. And then the last highlighter, my neck is killing me already from this chair, is from Melt Cosmetics. And then I am just going to get into one other Melt product, and then we just have some lippies, and that's honestly it. But I did get a couple of cheek products when I ordered the Muerte palette, because I wanted to try one of their, well, I do have another one of their pressed highlighters, but I don't have one of the smaller ones. I only have like the ones in like with like the printed melt embossing on it, but this one is the shade Ghost Light, and this one is so gorgeous. I was really impressed with this one. It's such a stunning like goldish whitish highlighter. And y'all know I love my white gold highlighters and like my, but these are 3 gorgeous formulas, and the Melt one is very soft and smooth on the skin, and it's just very intense as well. And they're all just such easy highlighter formulas to use. Like you do doot, and you're done, and they look stunning on the skin. So if y'all are looking for good, fair-skinned highlighters, these are really gorgeous. I would say the Ghost Light is probably the palest one, and it's just stunning. I love pairing this with the Calica's eyeshadow shade in the Melt palette, in the Muerte palette, because they're almost the same, and they just look so stunning together. Like I put the Calica on my inner corners and use this as my highlighter, and it's gorgeous. So really have been enjoying this one. And then I did get 2 blushes, and I like one blush more than the other. The first one is the shade Bowdy, and I actually got this for free with my order. And I think that this is a stunning pink blush. I actually have never tried Melt's powder blushes. And what's funny is that the first one I decided to try is like a pink shade, and I've only worn this once actually. I need to wear it a bit more, but since summer is winding down, I'm not really reaching for it. And when I'm doing like a pink look, like I'll reach for a different blush. But this is a stunning hot pink color. And this one is really pigmented and really nice on the skin. So, and it's funny because this one was the free one, but it's really nice. I really like it. But again, I've only used it once, but I did want to talk about it in this video. Okay, and then for the other blush is the shade Electra, and I got this kind of because I thought it was like more of like a lavender highlighter hybrid kind of product. Like I thought I could use it as a blush and a highlighter, but it's kind of too dark for me to use as a highlighter, but it's also kind of light for me to use as a blush. And this one has like the complete opposite formula of the Bowdy blush. It's very powdery. Like it's still pretty on the cheeks and I can get it to work for me. But I'm just surprised on how powdery it is. Like it's not as smooth. It's kind of like a blush light, so you can use it as a blush and a highlighter. But I don't think it's as smooth as the Bowdy one. But it's still a really gorgeous like lavender pink color. And I like using it with like my Lilac You A Lot palette or like a purple tone eye look. And I have used this one a couple more times than the Bowdy one. I've used this one like 2 or 3 times, I think. But it is kind of powdery, but it is pretty. It's just like a little bit of an effort to get it to work for me, like the Muerte palette is. But overall, the result is really pretty. So... and then I just wanted to give a shout out to my Makeup Geek blushes because I have been keeping these next to me. And just in case if I don't have time to, like, grab a blush that I, want to go through my drawers and pick out one. Like if I'm in a rush for work or anything like that, or I hadn't laid it out the night before, I'll go for one of these, or I'll just take one of these if I want like a more neutral blush for the day. I'll use like this shade called, I think this one is Infatuation. But I've been dipping into these over the past month, and they've just been so pretty. And also, I cannot believe how pigmented these still are. They're great. So Infatuation, Bliss, Spellbound, which is also a gorgeous one, and Cherish. I think I've only used this top row this month. And I've used Infatuation a couple of times because it's such an easy, like, nude blush for every day. And they've been really beautiful. So I'll swatch, like, Infatuation and Bliss. But they're still really nice. And look how pigmented those are. So really have been enjoying these the past month. I did have, like, my MAC palette in front of me, I believe, like, in July. And then I switched it out with this one because I used most of the shades in that one in the month of July, and I like switching them up sometimes, but they're really, really pretty. So okay, and then I just have to shout out the ColourPop bronzer again in the shade Alviva Beach. I did try and go back to some bronzers, but honestly, I keep on going back to this one because I absolutely love it. Sorry, my throat's just getting a little bit scratchy. And this is gorgeous. I'm actually wearing it on my face today. And I just love the undertone of this. And I absolutely love, like, the velvety smooth formula. It's just such a good bronzer. So this one is the Alviva Beach. And I just have been loving it. It's so super smooth and easy to work with. And it's such a good shade for me. And I just have been obsessed with it. So I keep on reaching for it for a reason. Because it's just really, really good. So I don't know why my lips are kind of getting a little bit of that, like, white ring. Maybe I need to reapply it just a little bit because that's annoying me just a little bit. So I just do that. Okay, that's better. It usually doesn't happen with this lipstick, but I don't know why it's happening today. I'm using the Velvet Blur lipstick from ColourPop, and I absolutely love those too. Speaking of ColourPop, we have 4 lip products to talk about just really quick. Honestly, like, I haven't really used that many other lip products, so I'm just going to mention the 2 Luxe lipsticks from the Disney collection. I think I only mentioned Moana last month because I wasn't able to use Princess Aurora last month, but I was able to use it this month. I've used it a couple times. I've used Moana the most out of any of my lipsticks this month besides the Ultra Glowing Lippy and the besides the Ultra Glowing Lippies that I got. So this one is Moana, and this is a really pretty, like, rosy tone Luxe lipstick, and it's very pretty. And y'all know how much I love the Luxe lipstick formula, and this is such a beautiful color, and it just performs so nicely, and it's so smooth and creamy on the lips. So I absolutely love this one. And then the other one is Princess Aurora. Y'all know I had to get the Aurora shade. I mean, duh. And this is such a stunning pink shade. I used it a couple of times this month with some pink looks, and I loved it. It's not too, like, in your face pink. It's like it's still very pigmented, but it's also, it's also very saturated, but it's also, like, not too, like, in your face pink. So I absolutely love this color too. And then the 2 Ultra Glowing Lippies, I think I mentioned these in my last video, but I have been wearing these a lot, especially the one from the In the Springs collection. This is my most worn lip product this past month. I think I've worn it like 5 times at this point. It's just such a pretty, like, peachy color, and I just have been loving it, and it's just such an easy lip product to throw on. So this one is the shade, what is this shade called again? Adults Only, and it's such a pretty peachy color. I absolutely love these. But the only problem with these is that they get very slippery on the lips, and it almost, like, pushes the product down. So you keep on having, like, to twist up the top. But it still performs really nicely. And then the other shade that I have is one of these pinky shades, and I cannot believe it took me this long to get a pink shade in this. And this one is called Cockatoo. And this one is a stunning, like, much more lighter mauve tone pinky shade rather than the Princess Aurora. Do you see the difference with those? And this would be kind of like better for like an everyday pink shade if you don't want something as pigmented as the one from the Disney collection. But this is gorgeous. I've worn this a couple of times. I wasn't able to wear it until after my favorites video. Or maybe I had used it once, but I already knew that I love the Ultra Glowing Lip formula, and I just mentioned it. But this I actually did use throughout the month of August, and it's beautiful. And then one last product, and then we are done. I don't think there's anything else. What's funny is that at first, I didn't really understand the hype with this, but now as I've been using it a lot more as my my daily lip mask for nighttime, because I always put on a lip mask before I go to sleep so I can hydrate my lips overnight. And this one is the Laneige Lip Sleeping Mask. And I know a lot of people love this, but I was like, I kind of like my ColourPop ones more, but now I kind of understand why people love this, because I love this now. It has like such a beautiful, like cushiony, hydrating formula to it, and it also smells like watermelon. But I was going to get like the full set of lip masks from ColourPop because it was only like $14. It was such a good price, and it was for 3 of the lip masks. But those take me like a year to get through. So I was like, I'll just use this because I forgot that I had this, and I was like, let me just start using this again. And it's really nice. So I've just been using this as my daily lip mask for nighttime. And yeah, it's great. So yeah, that's it, you guys. That's all the favorites I have for you today. So please like and subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram at CBW819 and check out my Poshmark at the same handle. Let me know what you've been loving this month. I would love to know. Just please leave it in the comments below. And let me know if you tried any of these products for yourself and if you loved them or hated them. I really would love to know your opinion. So yeah, I love you guys and have a good day. Bye.